The entire audience was laughing as my leotard ripped apart from the back. I'd forgotten to check the size when I was putting it on in the changing room, and apparently this one was too tight. I ran off the stage and went to the changing room. Oh my gosh. I can't believe this just happened. I was on the verge of tears. It's okay, Alicia. These things happen to all aspiring actresses once in a while. At the end of our play, no one will remember this little incident. Don't you worry. Miss William, you don't know teenagers nowadays. Someone probably took a video and it's definitely trending right now. There, why don't you ask your parents to take you home so you can take a break? I wasn't even sure whether they were in the audience. I took out my phone and called my mom. Hi, dear. Did you see what just happened? What are you talking about? You didn't come to my play? What play? The one I've been telling you about for months. I had a leading role, remember? You and Dad aren't here? Sorry, we're with Daisy at an important photo shoot. I was so angry that I hung up. My parents treated my 5-year-old sister like a princess and completely ignored me since the day she was born. I was totally sick of it. I was going to get back at them, all while totally ruining my little sister. Keep watching to see how. Alicia, I'm so sorry that your parents aren't here, but there are many people who support you, including me. You're one of my best students. I know you're just saying that to make me feel better. I don't even know why I was born. I became so emotional that I just ran straight out of the theater with tears in my eyes. I ran across the road thinking how perfect my life was until that brat Daisy was born. And I didn't see it coming until it hit me. I went flying into the air and then I totally blacked out. Woke up in a hospital bed surrounded by serious-looking doctors and nurses.
She's awake.
Hi, dear. Your right leg is broken, but you'll be okay. Why didn't you look before crossing the street? I was hit by a car? Yes, darling. We need to call your parents. Here, take my phone. Their numbers are saved in there. I thought that maybe now my parents would probably give me some attention, but they showed up in a few minutes looking annoyed. What sort of trouble have you gotten yourself into now? You interrupted a very important photo shoot. Mom! I just broke my leg because I was so sad that none of you came to support me. You don't care about me anymore. Just that stupid 5-year-old child. What about me and what I want? You two honestly suck. You're the worst parents ever. I could tell they felt embarrassed while the doctors and nurses looked on curiously.
Okay, dear, calm down. We're very sorry. How can we make it up to you?
Let me quit high school and enroll me in an acting school right now. But what about SATs? Do you want to make it up to me or not? She talked it over with my dad and they agreed, but I didn't feel like I had won the battle just yet. I needed to make a plan so that they could see me as the perfect daughter and not Daisy. A few weeks passed and my leg healed. I went up to Daisy's room one night after dinner. Daisy, I have to have a little talk with you. What is it, big sister? You know that Santa and the Tooth Fairy are real, right? Yes, I will lose my first tooth soon and she's going to bring me lots of money. And I love Santa. Well, you know I'm big, strong, and dangerous, right? Yeah? I kidnapped Santa and the Tooth Fairy and I'm hiding them in a secret dungeon. If you don't do everything I tell you to do from now on, I'm going to kill them. She immediately burst into tears and she was crying so loudly that my mom began calling from downstairs. I told her we were just playing a game and then tried to get Daisy to shut up. Stop crying or I'll kill them right now. What do you want me to do? Well, first of all, you can't tell anyone what's going on. I want you to stop being nice. When Mom and Dad talk to you, just roll your eyes and don't reply. But that's naughty. I know, but you want Santa to live. Anyway, next you're going to stop wearing all those cute little girly dresses. You're going to dress like a boy now, and you're going to wear a cap and big gold chain. Like a rapper. That part will be fun. I got you some clothes, but don't tell mom and dad where you got them. You also have to start swearing. I'm gonna teach you a few words. I made her repeat curse after curse until she could pronounce them properly. When I was satisfied with my work, I gave her a lollipop and a hug. Maybe you'll be able to save Santa after all. The next day, I pretended to have a fever so I could observe how Daisy interacted with my parents. She did just as I asked. Gosh, little kids are so stupid. My mom wanted to know where she got her hideous outfit from, but she rolled her eyes and refused to answer. Then my dad asked her why she wasn't being nice, and she let out a nice big swear word. They were shocked, and I'd never been happier.
I always knew there was something wrong with that kid, and I think I know why.
Don't talk like that, maybe it's just a phase.
Well, aren't you going to deal with it?
You're on time out, Daisy. She swore again, and I laughed so much I couldn't breathe. What did my dad mean, though? Throughout that week, I'd ask Daisy to do random, awful things and to make it seem like she did them on purpose. First, she poured grape juice all over Mom's favorite white carpet. When my mom asked her why, she swore at her. You're on time out again, Miss Lady. I don't know what's gotten into you lately.
Whatever, woman. What do you think a timeout is gonna do?
She replied and walked back to her room. Get back here. I'm confiscating all of your toys, and if you don't watch it, I'm going to give them away to charity.
Shut up!
The next day, she ripped up some of the curtains in the house, and the day after that, she just broke random things. By Friday, my parents were considering taking her to a psychologist. But my plan was beginning to work because, for the first time in a long time, they began to treat me like I existed. They'd ask me questions about how things were going at my new school, and when I asked them to hook me up with some of their director friends so I could start getting some acting roles, they told me they'd get back to me soon. In about a month, I had a minor role in a movie. I was just the lead character's classmate, but I knew that greater things were to come. But I had to continue threatening Daisy because if she snapped back to her usual self, it'd be all over for me. Hey Daisy, Christmas is coming, so I'm gonna let Santa out for a little while, okay? I think you've been good, so you deserve your presents this year. Yay! The next morning, there were presents addressed to her from Santa. Daisy was so excited that day that I almost started to feel bad about what I was doing to her. But then I thought that she probably didn't feel bad when my parents missed my plays, so I continued my plan. That night, after my parents were sleeping, I hid all her presents in the basement. Then I woke her up and told her to come downstairs with me.
Where are my presents, Alicia?
They were gone, but I saw this note from Santa. Here, I'll read it to you. Dear Daisy, I am only giving presents to bad children this year. If you throw garbage all over your house and make a big mess before tomorrow morning, I'll return your presents. Love, Santa. I told her she'd better hurry up and get back to work. Then I went back to my room, but not before turning the security cameras back on. The next morning, I woke up to a loud scream. What happened to our house? Did someone break in? I ran downstairs to find my mom standing in the middle of a pile of junk. Wow, Mom, you should check the security camera footage. If it's a bad guy, maybe the police can find him. My mom and I went to the home office to view the footage, but just before Daisy's incident, we saw my dad enter the house. But he wasn't alone. We gasped. He had his arm around the waist of a really hot young woman. She was wearing a really tight dress which showed off her curves perfectly. The footage showed them entering the guest bedroom and leaving after about an hour. Wow. My husband. Don't freak out, Mom. Maybe it was just a business meeting. Business my foot. Harold, get down here. My dad came running down and I wasn't ready to deal with all the drama, so I left the room. They argued for a long time. Did I just ruin my parents' marriage? In the living room, Daisy was sitting in the middle of all the junk, crying.
Where are my presents?
Santa's dead, Daisy. She screamed and both my parents came running in. What's wrong, baby?
She killed Santa.
What? But my dad wasn't done arguing.
You have got some nerve getting upset with me for one night of fun when you know very well that Daisy is nothing like me. She's become so rude, annoying, and destructive. Those aren't my genes. She got that from her real father.
Harold, now is not the time.
Yes, it is. I am tired of these double standards. It's about time the girls knew the truth.
Huh, Dad?
Your mom had an affair a few years ago. Daisy isn't my kid.
Yes, she is, Harold.
I took a paternity test. She isn't. Look, this obviously isn't working out. I think we should get a divorce. I'll keep my kid, and you can keep yours.
3 months later, my life had changed drastically. I moved away with my dad and his new girlfriend, Lexi. She was so stupid and annoying, but at least I was the center of attention now. Because my dad felt so guilty about everything that happened, he started to shower me with gifts and I got everything I asked for. Daisy, on the other hand, was having a really hard time with my mom. She was so angry about everything that she never snapped back to her usual self. So while trying to get all the attention, I ended up ruining my parents' marriage and destroying my sister's life. Was it worth it though? I think so.
Dyra, woohoo, hottie! Dyra! Blow that flute thing, girl. You're amazing!
I was so embarrassed that I dropped my clarinet and ran off the stage. Usually, jocks don't show up to classical music concerts. But here they were, a bunch of sweaty footballers at one of my biggest performances of the year. Why did they show up and why were they cheering for me? Well, to put it simply, I'm hot. Most girls would kill to be in my shoes, and as far as I was concerned, they could have them. My looks created more problems than anything in my life, and if you think that's totally crazy, keep watching while I explain. So, I've already established that I absolutely hate how hot I am. I'm popular at school, but I never asked to be. Guys think I'm the most gorgeous girl they've ever seen, and all the girls want to be my friend because they think that if they're around me, they might get noticed by the guys they like. I kept facing disappointment after disappointment. For example, my best friend since kindergarten was a girl named Steffi. We did everything together, and I thought we'd be friends for life. But when I started developing curves and attracting a lot of attention, she sort of changed. She became a bit distant and she didn't want to hang out as often as before. Then one day I was watching a video on her phone when a message popped up. It was from Ralph, a guy she liked. He was telling her that he wanted her to introduce him to me. She replied that I was smelly, annoying, and that I snored. Then I saw another conversation between her and Samantha, a girl from my class who hated me. They were both saying lots of horrible things about me. I couldn't believe it. I took her phone and smashed it on the floor in front of her. Hey! Why'd you do that? Why don't you ask yourself why you're such a hypocrite? A crowd started to gather around us. I wouldn't have escalated too far if she hadn't pulled my hair. Nobody touches my hair. So I sent her flying into a nearby wall, and it was a total catfight. We both got sent to the principal's office, and I was suspended for a week. My mom was horrified. What were you thinking getting into a fight? You're going to ruin your perfect skin. What if you got a scar? It's gonna ruin your career. Then what? How will a few scars affect my career as a musician? Musician? You're going to continue the family business. You're going to be a model. I don't want to be a model. You can't waste all that beauty away. You literally don't have to work. Playing the clarinet won't pay the bills. But do you know how many millions you can make with that face and body of yours? I don't know why you can't be more like your sister. She just accepted a major gig in LA and she gets to travel in private jets and she's met so many celebrities. You're just going to clarinet concerts. Come on, child. You make no sense. I nodded my head and went to my room. With so much uncertainty in the world today, I should have been grateful that my family had already created a successful career path for me. My mom inherited a modeling firm from her mother who made her promise that we'd continue for generations. So from a very early age, my mom controlled what I wore, ate, how I did my hair, almost every other thing I do with my looks. I hated it all, and playing music was the only way I found any peace. While sitting on my bed, I was just filled with millions of thoughts. I was already 15, and if I didn't take my life into my own hands right now, what would happen to me? I decided that I would make an effort to dress as ugly as I could, so that everyone would just view me as an average girl. After my suspension period was over, I went to school in a pair of baggy pants and an oversized t-shirt. And do you know what? The guy still wouldn't leave me alone! In fact, the day after that, some girls tried to imitate me by wearing the same thing to school, thinking that this was the fashionable thing to do now. I became so overwhelmed that I broke down in math class. I put my head on the desk so no one would notice I was crying, and after class was over, I didn't get up until after everyone had left. Well, at least I thought that everyone had left. Somehow, the teacher, Mr. Davis, was still there.
Hey, Dyra, why are you crying?
Everything?
You can speak to me. I'll try my best to help.
I decided to open up to him about everything, and he seemed like he was sorry for me.
I'm sorry you're going through this. If you ever need a place to hide away from the other students during lunch, you can come here.
Really, Mr. D?
Yes.
I was relieved that I had a place to escape from all these stupid, hormonal teenage boys. But that didn't really fix most of my problems, because that week, my mom told me she booked my first photo shoot with a top photographer, and they wanted me to be on the cover of the firm's magazine. My house, my rules. You either abide by them, or you can go sleep on the streets. Was she for real? So I sucked it up like a big girl and did the photo shoot. In a polka dot bikini, looking like an idiot. It took hours of posing in different positions, and my eyes really hurt from the flash. I went home angry and went to school even angrier the next day. But I wasn't ready for what was in store for me.
Hey, babe, you look really hot in that bikini. Why don't you wear it to school sometime? Yeah, Dyra, you're a total hottie. Why don't you stop playing hard to get and just be my girlfriend already? Hey, gorgeous, can I have your autograph?
How could my picture have leaked? I called my mom immediately. Mom, everyone at school has seen the pictures from the photo shoot. Oh yes, I've been meaning to tell you about that. We started an Instagram page for you. It's good marketing. You already have 10,000 followers. You did this without asking me? I don't have to ask you. You're my daughter. Anyway, get home before 5 because you've got another shoot tonight. I hung up on her and could barely breathe because I was so angry. Instead of going to my first class, I went to Mr. Davis's room and started crying again.
Hey, what are you sad about now?
I couldn't explain anything, so he left the room to give me some privacy. After about an hour, I calmed down a bit. I decided to get started on one of my assignments, but I'd forgotten my pencil case at home. I walked over to Mr. Davis's desk to get a pen, and while looking, I noticed that he had a folder on his computer named Diara. Huh? I thought. I opened the folder, and there were my bikini pictures! Why was this old man saving my pictures? I felt betrayed because he was just like the others. And at that moment, he walked in. You're a disgusting old man. I thought I could trust you.
What are you talking about?
Why are my pictures saved on your computer? He stood there shocked while I marched out of the room. I went to my classes and had a really horrible day, and then I went home to my mom so I could go to the second photo shoot. She greeted me looking excited as a child who saw ice cream for the first time. Check out your Instagram page. It's blowing up. But look at this. She opened the direct messages, and there was a message from Dolce & Gabbana asking me to model their clothes. Most girls don't get opportunities like these, you know. Mom, I know, but I really don't want to do this. In fact, I'm not going to the second stupid photo shoot. I went to my room, shut the door, and began practicing my clarinet. She banged on the door, but I ignored her. The next day, school was the same nonsense at first, but after lunch, the principal came to get me from class. He took me to his office, and Mr. Davis was there with my mother. What's going on?
Dyra, you didn't give me a chance to explain. I saved your pictures because I was trying to make a case for you. Child labor is not legal in this country, and you can't be forced to work against your will.
You saved my daughter's pictures, you sick man!
You're a sick woman for forcing her to model in bikinis at 15 years old. Now, please stop fighting. Miss Taylor, we are very concerned about Dyra's well-being. She's clearly not happy, and she can be taken away from you if you're forcing her to work. Dyra, do you want to explain your feelings?
I just want to be loved for who I am and not what I look like. I don't want to go through my whole life just being judged on the shape of my curves or how perfect my smile is. And what happens when I get old? You'll have a daughter to take over the business, silly. Mom, I'm not happy. When we went home that evening, my mom had softened a bit. She didn't mention anything about modeling or the Instagram page. She approached me with her best idea yet. Hey, do you want to go stay with your dad's mom in the countryside for a while? Yeah. I won't have to go to school while I'm there, will I? No. I just think you need a break from everything. That weekend, I went to my grandma's house, and I stayed with her for 2 weeks. It was the most refreshing thing I'd ever experienced because no one was around judging my looks. I could practice the clarinet while sitting in the grass looking up at the sky, and I had no worries at all. When it was time to go back home, I could have cried. I packed my things, and my grandma called a taxi. When we got to the house, I carried my luggage to the front door and opened it. But my house was empty. There were only windows, walls, and floors. That's it. Mom! Diane! Anyone? I tried calling her cell phone, but there was no answer. I went to my room and somehow all my things were there. Then something caught my eye. There was an envelope on my bed with my name on it. I opened it and there was a letter inside. It read, "Dear Tiara, it's clear that you don't support the vision of this family. We've moved to LA because your sister found a way to expand our business over there. I already sold this house, but I left her things so that you can sort through them. You can go back to living with your grandma if you want, but if you ever have a change of heart, you can start modeling and join us down here. Have fun with your clarinet. P.S. You don't know what you're missing." I wasn't even upset, to be honest. I grabbed my things and ran after the taxi driver before he could get away. He took me straight back to my grandma's house. And now I'm finally living my dream. Hi, I'm Eliza, and I'm from Scotland. When I discovered my parents had been lying to me my whole life, I was determined to make them pay. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe. My parents were always control freaks. Ever since I was a little kid, they never let me join in sleepovers, not even play dates. One time, when I sneaked over to my friend Jessica's house after school, they found out and crashed at her house like some sort of SWAT team. Put your hands in the air! Luckily for me, Jessica didn't dump me then and there. She actually ended up becoming my best friend. And I'm pretty sure if I didn't have Jessica, I would have never survived my parents' controlling ways. In math class, Jessica and I were complaining about my parents when suddenly the cutest boy in the world walked in. Think young Leonardo DiCaprio meets Harry Styles. I was instantly in love. Jessica, that boy is so cute. I know. I'm gonna ask him out. I looked at Jessica. What? Who says you get to ask him out? Huh? Why not? He's mine. No, he's mine. We ended up catfighting there and then. The teacher had to break us apart from each other. After detention, we found out another girl in class had asked out the new boy, Mark. Truce. I'm not sure what would have happened if Mark hadn't been asked out, but I guess I'm thankful that he had. Jessica was my life boy in those tough times, and I wouldn't have liked to lose her over some boy. We agreed to never let someone else get between us. And I knew we would keep our promise, or so I thought. It was senior year of high school. Jessica and I were the bestest of friends. We agreed for our graduation we'd walk hand in hand. On the night of our graduation, I headed over to Jessica's house to surprise her with a gift I'd made her. It was a teddy bear I had made from scratch. Yep, I stitched it and everything. It took ages to make. I was so excited to give it to her. I walked into her room, but the sight before me made me want to tear the teddy bear in half. Jessica was kissing my boyfriend! You see, in my senior year, I met a guy, Jared. He wasn't from our high school. He was this biker dude who was so hot. Jessica was the only one who knew about him. If my parents knew, they would have made me break up with him instantly. I thought I could trust Jessica, but here she was, playing Star Wars with their tongues! Jessica! You jerk! I launched myself at her and started clawing at her eyes and hair. Girls, stop fighting! Shut up, you piece of dingus! Eventually, Jessica's parents heard the commotion and came running in. They separated me and Jessica. Jared had disappeared by then. What has gotten into you two? Jessica and I looked at each other and silently nodded. In that moment, we hated each other, but we had enough common sense to know not to tell her parents anything. Nothing. We're fine. You don't look fine. Jeez, you're graduating today. Now's not the time to fight over petty things. If they knew what their daughter had done, they would have taken my side. But I didn't want to risk my parents finding out I had lied about my boyfriend. Jessica's parents probably would have told my parents right away. For now, this had to remain a secret. For graduation, Jessica and I didn't walk hand in hand. I actually didn't speak to Jessica the whole time. The next day at school, I sat with a new group of friends. I think Jessica had tried to approach me in the cafeteria, but I ignored her. To me, she was as good as rubbish. Later that night, my parents were having guests over for dinner.
Look at Eliza. She's all grown up.
Yes, we are very proud of her. Do you have a boyfriend yet, Eliza? Before I could answer, my mom butt in. Oh, no. Eliza has never had a boyfriend. She's very innocent. What a shame.
Yeah, if I were her age, I would have asked her out by now.
Alan? What? It's a joke. While my parents' creepy guests fought over Alan's inappropriate joke, I stayed quiet. No one could know I dated Jared. You see, when I first mentioned Jared to you, I just called him some biker dude. The truth is, he's a lot more than that. Jared is the head of the biggest criminal gang in Scotland, the Clovers. If my parents found out, they'd never forgive me. I'd be grounded until the day I die. Later that night, I was struggling to sleep. I went downstairs for a midnight snack, but I found my parents talking quietly. I'm not usually an eavesdropper, but when I heard them say my name, I was curious, so I hid behind the wall and listened in.
Eliza can never see Jared again.
Huh? What did my dad just say? Jared? I must have misheard. I know, Jared's nothing but trouble. Okay, they had definitely said Jared. How did they know about Jared? I moved closer to pick up what they were saying when suddenly I heard a loud crash. I looked down. I had just knocked over a vase. I looked up. My parents had spotted me. Honey, how much did you hear? Should I lie? Tell the truth? I heard everything. I hung my head. Go on, deal your punishment. You know about Jared now. My parents looked at each other.
That's all you heard?
I was surprised. I expected more shouting. Yes? My parents looked relieved, but tried to hide their expressions. They failed. Oh, it's all good. People make mistakes. Off to bed now. Huh? But aren't you gonna punish me for... I stopped myself. Why was I asking for punishment?
No, lesson learned. Off to bed.
That night, I went to sleep wondering what it was they were hiding. The next morning, when I woke up, I decided I would find out. I thought, where better to start off than their phones? I stole my mom's phone while she wasn't looking and started snooping around. That's when I found out she and Jessica had been texting each other. What could they possibly be chatting about? Did you do it yet? Yup. I kissed Jared. I feel so bad. Is this really necessary? You know why this had to be done. You can pick up the money tomorrow. Okay, thanks. My parents had paid Jessica to kiss Jared. Why? Just as I was about to scroll up to find out more, my mom walked in and caught me. Eliza, what do you think you're doing? I stopped myself. Why was I the one acting guilty? My mom had paid my best friend to cheat with my boyfriend. I could say the same thing about you. You paid Jessica to cheat with Jared. My mom froze. It's not what it looks like. Go on then, explain. If you want the truth, fine. My mom looked like she was having a really hard time getting out the words. Jared is... What? Jared is your brother! I gasped. What? Mom explained. When she and my dad had first gotten together, they had a baby by accident. They couldn't afford it. They were so poor they couldn't even afford food, so they had to give the baby to an orphanage. They had always kept track of the baby though, and found out it had been adopted by another family. Then, a distant relative had won the lottery, and my parents got a huge share of the sums. They had me, and they figured it was best to keep their son with his adoptive family as to not confuse him. I always kept track of him though, and one day I found messages on your phone from this Jared guy. I located him and discovered that he was my son. He is my son. I felt like my brain was going to explode. I didn't even want to think about how gross this was. Jared was my brother, but he was also my ex-boyfriend. Why did life have to be so confusing? I decided to change my whole look after that. I didn't care about pride. I wore the shortest shorts and the most revealing tops. This was my way of defying the world. I dressed so bad, my parents wanted to cry whenever they saw me. I didn't care though. I was confused, and this was my way of dealing with it. But then my parents thought it would be a good idea to be models themselves, so they could embarrass me out of dressing the way I did. My dad became a butt model. My mom became a chin model. It was so weird. Their photos were all over social media, and my classmates teased me about it all the time. I hated it. I considered changing my looks just to please my parents, but my stubbornness overcame my embarrassment. That is, until Mark came along. If you've forgotten, Mark was the cute boy Jessica and I fought over towards the beginning of my story. Well, Mark had moved away for a while, but now he was back in town. Now we were attending the same college. When he first entered class, he looked at me with shock. Eliza, is that you? At first, I didn't recognize Mark, but then I realized who it was. Oh no. I was fine with these other people seeing me in these clothes, but not Mark. He was so sweet. I didn't want him thinking I was some bad girl who was some sort of player or something. Yeah. So what? It's good to see you again. Who cares? I don't even remember your name. I forgot to mention, this new look of mine also came with a new attitude. Mark looked disappointed. He walked away. I watched him leave. Life was so confusing. I continued my ways until one day I decided to ask Mark out. Life was short. My other tried romance had failed miserably with Jared. Maybe it would work out with Mark. So I did it. I asked him out. But this was his response. You've changed. I was suddenly angry. What? Is it my clothes? So what? A girl can't dress how she likes? Mark waited patiently for me to calm down. No, Eliza, it's not that. It's your personality. You used to be kind and funny and thoughtful. I actually used to have a crush on you back in high school, but now you're mean. It's not attractive. And with that, he walked away. I was shocked, but I realized he was right. It was time for me to go back to my roots. The next day, I came back in my normal clothes and my normal attitude. I asked Mark if he'd consider my offer again. How about over dinner? I smiled. That sounds great. We had dinner and things were going well, until suddenly Jared stormed up to our table and punched Mark in the face. Jared! Eliza, please take me back. I'm in love with you. I was frozen. What? I'm in love with you! But Jared, you're my brother! Jared was frozen this time. What? I explained everything to Jared. He looked disgusted. He walked out of the restaurant without another word. I helped Mark to his feet. Sorry about that. Can we continue? No way! Sorry, Eliza, but you're not worth it! Mark walked away too. I sat there alone. I suddenly got a message on my phone. It was from Jessica. Listen, I'm in love with you. Can we talk? I sighed. My life was so complicated.